be first negative, and then Harker LL is going to be second affirmative.
Yeah. No accommodations from our side. What about y'all?
Nope.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Well, stocks from dropping. Yeah, everyone's going to start, correct? Okay. All right. The negatives dropped. When someone y'all get it, or when y'all get it. Sure. In that case, tell us on my first word. Straight negates condition is Africa. The Horn of Africa is stable but fragile in the middle of 25. Who these deposit tax international tensions compound instability at a direct competition remains unlikely. Ethiopia pull force back and Eritrea can't rest sanctioned without coordination. The region will remain vulnerable to competition, some escalation, and disruption to global trade. Extortion creates peacekeeping incentives. Man 25. The safety of workers and continuing investments require strong security. Djibouti was introduced for peacekeeping, and foreign countries are relying on construction to keep Beijing closed. China holds economic leverage to get infrastructure functioning. China's intervention stabilizes the situation to protect interests. Withdrawal of these unstable power vacuums. Economy 25. Rebel power stays in the claim resources before competitors create the scramble for Africa to serve control over territories. Superpowers endeavor to expand influence. This involve conflicts to prevent the approach and block from advantages. Goal sets expanded regional activities in the Horn of Africa. One power moves out the actors and interpret this as threatening, prompting countermeasures. This can lead to tensions and direct confrontation. Instability draws in great powers. Behera 25. The Red Sea is a crucial choke point. The U.S., Russia, EU, Iran host militaries turning the Red Sea into a battlefield. As tensions escalate, the multiple forces are operating in confined space. The risk of miscalculation is high. These present Chinese influence and regional rivalries turn into a conflict. Connection 2 is leverage. China's resource leverage, weather's economic source, and stabilizes the competition blew in December. After Trump tariffs, Beijing dug in, exposing export controls on REMs, battle defense, clean energy, calibrated retaliation. This reserved negotiating space and kept off ramps. China seeks an equal place to economic power and influence rather than conquest. Comparisons of economic data or military are unlikely to provide indication of power. It includes demands on less tangible qualities. China's power is funded on resources. She's been China can export out of overcapacity and dominance, and advanced industries will mitigate structural weaknesses and environmental decline. China shouldn't be underestimated. It has suffered reversals yet maintained a trajectory. No other has gone tit for tat for tariffs unscathed. The best case is stabilized confrontation, insulated for escalation. China doesn't seek to unseat the U.S. or a system which greatly benefited. Absent leverage, tariffs level China change 25. China can't win a trade war. China's economy is 2/3 the size. Trade surplus countries have everything to lose. Xi's only way out is to get Trump to back down. Extraction of heavy minerals preserves delicate balancing. Reduction disrupts strategically navigated choke points. 25. Protectively, Beijing agreed to pause export controls. Language analysis reveals a story of strategic patience. Shape points are proving durable. The make inputs all rare earths is equivalent. This is wrong. The real choke point lies in heavy earth rare earth elements, indispensable for magnets and jets and vehicles. Vulnerabilities exploited which shatter China's industrial ambitions. Galvanizing counter embargoes, foundational patents remain held by Japanese firms. Factories depend on imported equipment. China depends on Myanmar for half of its heavy supply, controlled not by a stable state. Countries would force severe disruption or premature depletion of reserves, trading away strategic debt. Calculation Beijing wants to avoid strategic patience at the boost on was a mutual recognition of dependencies. China raising the close checkouts and emphasize supply. The West is racing to mill processing and assured access. History is clear. The real threat is violent decline, military successors or occupation, and this unique window, the net controls the escalation risk, and the only unique offense back to 23. And against over 150 years of peaking powers, we just calculate a finite window of opportunity to rekindle examples are plentiful. Imperial Russia responded by abandoning peaceful penetration in militarily occupied markets and ports. Japan and Germany were just not rampages of these resources. The question is not whether peaking power will expand, but how. The answer depends on competitive products. Does that where is the sell and stabilize its situation? Power faces feeble demand or insecure supply lines, may need more force to obtain resources. Autocratic links incentivize autocrats as shield for earnings from condition. China is a high-risk case for aggressive responsible into pattern training out warships, ship ramming, and anyone says to show neighbors out, document statements, and contracts suggest these actions driven by economic troubles. Can be just a preview where it's a fast-growing China. The expense will be back in a crisis, so sluggish China could react violently. It's hard to see otherwise. The regime has already dialed up propaganda, built out abilities. The government suggests attacks to initiative and power groups favor current strategy. To our struggle to save entanglements with those benefited elites, shouldn't China would be a recipe for disaster. Beijing figures away money on CBRI, much better, perhaps like the 2030s. Head on to compel Beijing to dial back and diplomatic breakthrough will be possible. Now, however, is a moment of maximum danger. Collapse guarantees depression and nuclear conflict. Watch 23. China's centralized model is susceptible to collapse. When their economic headwinds, Xi gets the blame. It can be outside factions could rise, waiting multi-sided civil war with nukes and the loose collapse. We presented the largest global recession, prepare for balkanization with the U.S. in the crosshairs. But there's still a chasm between that and now China can implode. Perception of trajectory shapes reality in G25. Compression is perceptual, which will lead us economic perfect info, but how they reach trajectory in Beijing delay is fatal. 25 white paper makes this explicit. Beijing can name on club, offering the only way through the narrowing window. The downside is already existential depression in the window. Incentivizes striking Taiwan before optimal external confrontation to rally legitimacy. These desperate wars necessity warps incentives. Taiwan goes nuclear, petty challenge 2022. If China forcibly invades Taiwan, the could quickly escalate into nuclear CCP may not accept failure. From Beijing's perspective, nukes may be the most effective strikes intended to avoid escalation across red lines, to make preemptively detonate to reinforce credibility, first use to provoke a response. That's the most obvious extinction path, Player 23. A modern great power war can see nukes by weapons anti-tech threat and extinction. It's more likely to be intentional. The most worrying possibility is US China. They spend the most on militaries and have several characteristics to cause war. The most obvious issues Taiwan location and industries are valuable for both. It's a conflict over ideals, reputation, protecting allies, territorial integrity, and passing justice. Nukes led to extinction through famine by winter or reducing resilience enough that something else would. Autonomous weapons and inventions we can't predict could take humans out of the loop. That's what we need.
Okay, we'll send a doc. Helps.
It's not going to help at all.
It's
It's not, Leon,
Okay.
nothing is going to help.
Okay. Everyone good? Okay, cool. Contention 1 is Siberia. Extraction drives Chinese invasion of Siberia by 2027. Lonergon 25. Internal deliberations in a leaked document suggest China's ambitions are Siberia. This shift, driven by resource hunger, could be likely by 2027. Siberia offers diamonds and water. China faced water scarcity. Russia's in decline. Resources addressing energy demands. Russia's military, depleted by Ukraine, has diverted its forces. This left Siberia underdefended. Reports note increased intelligence, efforts to recruit Russian scientists, target military tech, and assert territorial claims. Siberia is a pragmatic target. Russia forced to limit retaliation to avoid losing trade. Guaranteed control is key. Horvath 22. Safe access would mean a most favorable guarantee. While Siberia under hostile rule would be strangling, China can grab Siberia by force, and independent Russia may use reliance against it. Leverage only worsens tensions. Korolev 25. China is seen as a threat. Russia is perceived as a provider of materials for Chinese goods. This decline fuels public unease, prompting calls to resist becoming a resource appendage. Divergences include stalled negotiations on integrating with China's BRI and mistrust. War goes nuclear. Stanko 24. The partnership isn't guaranteed. Russian leaders felt the threat of Chinese designs on the Far East. Concerns about conflict with China have taken place. If relations collapse, Russia would face conventional inferiority along the land border. Employing nuclear weapons offers the equalizer by striking Chinese troops. China's options are limited. Russian leaders perceive escalation dominance and conventional inferiority, incentivize nuclear use. Contention 2 is space. U.S.-China competition over space causes quick militarization. PAPS 25. Lawmakers are pushing to escalate. The U.S. stressed dominance was crucial for resources. Countries that control the moon control the earth. If China lands, we'll see our allies turn to them for national security. Rather than diplomatically engage, speakers responded by calling for measures that militarize the domain. The DoD advocated for the controversial Golden Dome and other space architecture. 2026 is the brink. Joshi 25. Generals speak openly about weapons in space. 2026 could shape competition. Trump's plan to build a Golden Dome may come into focus. Lasers would be hugely expensive. Budget request involves a 40% boost for space. Require cuts in other areas. Post-AF, China loses military and resource advantages. Garrison 19. Maneuverability, reduced cost and time for transport is key to combat and logistical advantage. The ability to source fuel from asteroids is a significant multiplier. The U.S. is already behind. The PRC plans to develop on-orbit power stations to usurp hegemonic power. Satellites scaled to global demand can be sent anywhere and is 100% green, will be attractive. If the PRC succeeds, it'll be the major supplier. It causes territory wars. Rowan 23. Markets for space resources is not geopolitically innocent. U.S. new Cold War with China might spill over into many hot wars. Outer space is a site for a planet-altering military confrontation. Space mining risks escalating competition and a major conflict. Deployment escalates through preemption. Ramanak 25. Deploying armed systems in orbit erodes norms and increases the danger of miscalc. Weapons undermine confidence in their second strike, a cornerstone of deterrence. The perception that U.S. can neutralize deterrence increase incentive to act preemptively. Contention 3 is fish. Fish uniquely drive South China Sea disputes in their intensity. Reducing extraction solves by inducing necessary cooperation that also disarms underlying tensions. Grid 16. The Hague wrote against China's SES claims to explore resources. China consumes 34% of fish. Growing demand outstrips supply, necessitating fishing operations. Fishing is equally important to others. Access is a matter of starvation. Fish are tangible objects in negotiations. Proposes to shelve disputes and pursue joint development. Resources provide a basis if it's framed as necessary for continued Chinese access. That diplomacy empirically works. Marx 25. Diplomacy with countries sustains access. Firms can no longer rely on extraction alone. They must integrate activities. Following a ban, China retained access because it advanced policy objectives. Companies in Latin America and North Africa host nations' demands. Fishing disputes caused conflict with the Philippines. Basilio 26. A fishing vessel was harassed by Chinese ships near the Scarborough Shoal, underscoring rising tensions as Beijing asserts control. China's aggressive actions are designed to destroy the will of the fish. While presence is significant, they're not yet threatening. Activity in 2026 would increase. Beijing steadily expanded, leading to confrontations. Manila rolled out support for fishermen to encourage their presence. War draws in the U.S. Rwanda 25. The Philippines deepened cooperation with the U.S., Japan, and Australia. Washington repeatedly affirmed any attack will trigger defense obligations. A single miscalculated maneuver could kill the personnel, prompting the treaty. The imperative to demonstrate resolve will outweigh caution. Disputes carry new escalation risk. Goldstein 25. A disputed reef in the SCS escalate into a nuclear war. Chinese warheads are capable of hitting American targets. Americans are talking about it, so we must. Bellicose signals from Washington made the newly fashionable case for nuclear war. A war game state U.S. leaders may need substantial escalatory pressures. Nuclear tensions are rising. Hawkish rhetoric make the situation worse. On Africa, 1. Their man evidence says mediation fails because countries don't trust Africa. Africa, and 2 countries are more likely to actually, yeah, just the first we highlight, we'll send it now. And while Alice is sending it, do you want to just start cross or do you want to wait?
Whoa.
Okay, cool.
It's sent. It's just called round 3.
I'll wait for Roger. Wait, you open them. So.
Yeah, got it.
Okay.
Also, it was just like the first we highlight, right? I see 2 as well.
It's just like a
Oh,
joint
okay. My bad.
rehighlight.
Okay, that's fine. All right. May I take first question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So on your contention on Siberia, you say that like Russian people feel unease at the relationship between Russia and China, etc. Why do they not feel unease at every other mistake that Putin has done in his like term?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure why this is responsive to our argument. The core
I'm
level
just asking
evidence
a question. Like, just answer it.
They feel uneasy with the like. Why does this matter? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah. Okay, so imagine this, right? It says that Russia feels like they're no longer in the same place with like their allies, things like that. Insofar, like Russia was kind of like perceived as like moronic with the invasion of Ukraine. When they went to the BRICS conference, for example, their own allies in BRICS literally told them, hey, we want you to stop doing this in Ukraine. Russia is put into a position of vulnerability where they're looked on as like the little idiot of the group of allies. Why does this not create the same unease in the people? Because your evidence says this flipped relationship creates quote unquote unease.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the point you're trying to make yet is, but the Korolev evidence just says that if China tries to leverage or strong arm Russia into giving them resources, Russia will pull back more, which is empirically proven by like refusal to integrate with the BRI and mistrust in the region. This is just an answer to the argument that China can coerce Russia into always giving them resources.
Okay, so the analysis that you're making is that Russia is just like a wimp, so to speak, that they'll just let it happen.
No, it's the opposite. Russia perceives that Russia does not want to be a provider of raw materials for Chinese goods. The argument is that the more that they feel like they depend on China, the more that they'll try to not depend on China by refusing to integrate with them or refusing to work with China.
Okay, that's fine. You can take a question.
Can I take a question? Yeah, let's talk about Africa. Your Nivola evidence says that Eritrea, for example, cannot risk sanctions. And it also says, quote, with regional powers showing little appetite for renewed military intervention, the halt in attacks is creating space to resume discussions. It says that countries do not want to fight wars because there's going to be backlash. Why would countries just suddenly throw all of that away and just be like, actually, no, now we'll deploy all of our militaries and fight everyone just because there are resources in the region?
Okay, the analysis that Strake is making here is that what's happening right now is you have like China in the region, etc. That nations do not want to give fight if there's like nowhere for them to take over. For example, it makes not a whole lot of sense for the United States to aggress against like one of their like biggest rivals, etc. But as soon as the territory opens up, the United States is willing to go to the region. Now, the reason why conflict would happen specifically is the same reason why conflict happened this summer for Africa. Everybody is trying to take the territory instantly. So, like Gulf states, etc., even Europe are going to go in trying to get it at the same time. Maybe Europe will bow down because the United States is an ally, but that does not change the fact that the Gulf states would probably still have conflict with the United States.
But your evidence just says right now countries don't want to risk things like backlash and sanctions.
Because backlash because China is in the region.
No, your evidence doesn't say that. It just says that it would cause quote international backlash on top of existing sanctions. Obviously,
like a scramble for Africa would be different.
Wait, are y'all taking prep?
Honestly, forgot what first. Roger, are you good?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome the doc.
We've had an order.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's fine.
No, fifth is right after space.
I know I flipped it.
Oh, okay. No, you did. All right.
I did.
Hold on, wait. I accidentally named it 1 and C. Is that fine? Okay. All right.
It's actually very good.
All right, it's dropped.
Wait, my speed dropped.
Wait, I don't see it yet.
I just dropped it.
Wait, my speed drop isn't working.
Wait, I don't know if it's not working or if it's just not there.
I think
Do you want me to like delete it and then put it back in?
Wait, no, like we never saw it, but like low key since we're still in the meeting, like our Wi-Fi has to be fine.
Oh, you just like never got on the speech route.
No, like it's just not work.
Oh, now I got
Okay,
it.
I got it.
Okay.
That's true.
Everybody good? It's gonna be a quick frontline and then their case. On the mediation fails, and this is wrong. Our evidence says that there's not, even if China's mediation is not always good, it's currently working now, it's peaceful, and even if bends, it will not break. On Siberia, 1, invasions unlikely, research subverted, and nukes Tarzan 25. China moved to see Siberia, highly unlikely oil fields located in cold and barren region, limited potential for any growth oil and natural gas projects done by Western countries. China doesn't have the tech to operate them either. The Russians made it very clear they just nuke China's cities. There's not a conventional set. Prefer internal documents and considerations, not commitments. Even ambitions are Syria. The evidence falsely equates them with that invasion, which would make obtaining research impossible per evidence. Second, for about this insanely power tech, it said alliance is preferable if Russia is weak, which are unique. These evidence says because Ukraine is an invasion that's insanely low probability. It also says that internal documents are merely China power projected because it wants a favorable deal, which is inserted in blue. Third, worst intentions have never implicated a war. Relations would never collapse as two countries of mutual reliance. Cherbrowski 25. Unlike Russia's relations to elsewhere, alignment with Beijing Koreans close but on a decade of approach from China economic geopolitical dependency to China's increased both nations drives substantial benefits. Russia has gained a market energy resources, a potential wedge under its death economic, a shared governance model, future structure of the West not easily crumble. And again, the uniquest evidence is not state invasion, but the second evidence just says it would be beneficial if they had it. Not they would actually do so. You should hold the line. Fourth, the military alliance forms now, so leverage your reversal to unease. Also, there's all causes to Russia being in groups of toy. I see in BRICS conferences, Roger Volume, November 26th. China and Russia trending the high-level exchanges and cooperation, including missile defense on space. 1, China always incentive in the military space to compete with the United States. China's dominance stems from other factors, not resource extraction, being in 24. China fielded 100 military communications, intelligence, missile warning, and navigation satellites, advanced ability to deny U.S. space advantages, counter space weapons, severe U.S. military invention. China, world leader in space exploration, its own space station, human lunar exploration, commercial space dominance, with Chinese goods and services, commercial communication satellites, many facets of U.S.-China competition. Second, Russia thumbs SWOP 24. Russia's desire to develop indiscriminate counter-space weapons, nuclear anti-satellite capability to weaken the U.S. Few options prevent Russia from seeking weapons. The counter-space weapons destroy space capability. Moscow can harm about U.S. space interests. Third, no miscalculation or escalation. Poverty 19. Spheres have not broken down. Limited access to orbit reduces scenarios which could escalate. Fragility and outward access created de-escalating pressure due to deterrent effective retaliation. Powers demonstrated toward de-escalatory strategies. OST supported 6 decades of peace. States perceive costs to breaking this tradition and moderate their behaviors. Possible deniability and impossible. Stabilizing forces related to these consequences. Indiscriminate they threaten attackers' own assets and space military. Do you want to read this? Yeah,
you can just skip it.
Skip the Chronic evidence. Go to Space War 1. Democrats block the Golden Dome now. Cox 25. Pentagon and space industry are capable of producing Golden Dome. What Golden Dome may be possible, technically politically fake. There's like 26 midterms. The House flipped on down now and like how they're going to put extra money for Golden Dome. Also, the evidence says it's built in 2026 does not actually say this. It literally just says that they're planning to increase budget spending, not that they're actually deploy weapons 2026. Just goals. So you should hold the line the time from and on the trees argument. U.S. violates U.S. violates non-planning withdrawal. Well, no 22. U.S. international ally. U.S. refuses international laws and treaties. The vast majority of countries have signed. Just cut the rest of the card. Just go in the index. When I see Pappas cites a massive cause they can't solve, said that China's also tests its anti-satellite weapons in space. U.S. claims Beijing is testing weapons to describe China's advance as an inherent threat, and that's already happened since 2025. U.S. now has offensive system deployed. It's also described by U.S. That's U.S. Speaking about offensive space wires, proves the acknowledgement is working on offensive capabilities on fishing. We do not need to respond to every implication of joint development now. We should get responsive to new implications. So let's hold the line and escalatory ships are distinct from fishing boats. Davis 24. Boats for non-fishing vessels, part of military militia, Beijing rarely knowledge, mostly stick wide militia operates exclusive economic zone in Malaysia, South of China Sea, where predicted escalating with the Philippines, the fleets blockade recent islands or dangerous maneuvers. Second, all causes South China Sea intrusion, and China says it's domestic or being 20. Interest stem for national pride, oil and gas and maritime trade flows. So its direct lines rights. Beijing makes a 9-long argument on massive historic fishing ground. Most of the South China Sea belonging in China. Third, China's declared the Philippines, Rupee 25. Trump millionaires spend billions in modernizing, but the Philippines still lead to heavily in America. The Philippines security is based on mutual defense treaty. Trump has unpredictably raised to America's willingness to support Manila and Imperial Superior 20. Trump says if he doesn't mind the Philippines, have decided to terminate the visiting forces agreement. Trump said to save a lot of money and just reasons why. Past to be nothing. And states back down. Now's escalation what happened. Low 20. Chinese fishing vessels solidifying PRC military maritime claim challenging dangerous. Weaker states aware of Chinese fishing about possible government affiliation might hesitate to get to them in the way it broke PRC, but response even stronger states the United States might hesitate for confronting. And Varner's terrible for the 4 months ago says that upcoming weeks disproves the argument. When I see Varner says we should expect to see China's warships and vessels swim over the coming which does not happen, definitely disproves. And the joint cooperation stuff, we've done the active analysis and the leverage argument that China only goes to war when it is period of maximum danger. They stop a rising power. So it only happens with affirmative, or else they always de-escalate conflicts.
We're gonna run a bit of prep starting now.
Wait, do y'all want more? We just didn't read the Chronic evidence. That's it.
Yeah. Can you send it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the Chronic.
Yeah. It's like the
Oh,
whole
okay.
escalation.
Yeah. We're just gonna start running prep now. Okay, that was 1 minute. It'll be our case, their case. Let me send the doc real quick. It'll also be called round 3, but it's just more recent. Okay. Doc is in the speech drop. Is anybody not ready?
All right, give me a second to open it. Hold up. All right, I just got it.
Okay, cool. First, on Siberia, they say invasion is unlikely, but this is only about oil, not about water and diamonds, which are key to agriculture. They have also dropped explicit lines that say China believes it can coerce Russia into not retaliating. Internal documents also prove its Chinese strategy, which was dropped, and is the most likely still risk because it's literally what China has been saying to themselves. They say that Horvath is power tagged, but this is incorrect. First is trade. Lonergan says that China views Siberia as a pragmatic target because they think they can force Russia to limit retaliation by cutting trade, meaning China doesn't think nuclear war will start, when in reality it does because of miscalculation. Second is empirics. Lonergan says that China is increasing intelligence, recruiting Russian scientists, targeting military technology, and asserting territorial claims. They say tensions doesn't mean war and countries rely on each other, but our evidence specifically says invasion happens now, which means that it doesn't matter. On space. First, they say that there are always incentives to go to space, but they can catch up peacefully, which Trump will know if he sees that they're not mining anymore. And then they say that Russia subs, but it doesn't. McFall Johnson 23 will send after the speech. Russia and China are teaming up to mine the moon's resources. In NASA's words, Russia isn't as daunting as a competitor. Failed its first attempt at a lunar landing. Public statements from NASA's chief indicating he saw China, not Russia, as a competitor. Cut the card there. Then they say that there's no impact, but it's about preemptive strikes, making countries feel unsafe, so they immediately have to strike. They say Democrats block it, but this is not just about the Golden Dome. It's about the offensive weapons. They say it's not in 2026, but that's wrong because it's about the perception of when they fund it to start building it. They say there are no treaties, but we didn't read a treaty's impact either, so this doesn't matter. They say China is testing weapons. It obviously didn't happen yet, which policymakers know, and they don't want to spend money on a non-existent threat. On fish. First, exploratory ships are distinct. Diplomacy solves. They say exploratory ships are distinct, but diplomacy solves. China shifts to cooperation in the SES to secure access to fish because it's crucial to their food. That means that they'd become powerful and peaceful and reduce military presence to not make the Philippines mad. Second, they say China says it's domestic, but that's just China thinking that it owns a territory. Obviously, our definition should be based on what the Hague says. Otherwise, China could claim the entire world is theirs. They say Trump doesn't care. Their evidence is old. It's not about the Mutual Defense Treaty. Varner says Washington, quote, repeatedly affirmed any attack would trigger defense obligations, and our evidence is about Rubio. They say states back down, but they wouldn't because Greer says it's a matter of starvation. And they say Varner is about the coming weeks, but our Basilio evidence says it's in 2026. They say rise of power, but this is incorrect because they say it's a matter of starvation on their case. Africa, countries are more likely to negotiate with African countries for resources rather than deploying military, since their man evidence says causing instability and extraction would likely make getting the resources impossible. It's also less costly than fighting a great power war. Second, their Bahara evidence says China also relies on the Horn for trade, meaning there is no incentive for them to just destabilize the region post-AF. Even if they needed resources, they just fund groups in other regions. Next, China is the root cause, and it's tied to resource extraction. ADF 24. China becomes Africa's top weapon supplier. Weapons sale fit into China wanting to be a preferred partner to countries that have abundant natural resources. Chinese weapons fuel ongoing conflicts. No Africa war. Countries don't care about the region and don't have their militaries there. Keep 23. Interest in Africa, not strong motivation to become involved even in where potential for opportunities are high. Intervention entails indirect support. Countries focus on non-military competition. On leverage. First, their Leo evidence sucks. It concedes the following. A, China has alternative forms of leverage like barriers and legal tools that don't go away. B, leverage is declining now because countries diversify. Independently, it says China is already dependent on the US, so the impact should have triggered. C, it says China's power is reliant on its population. D, thanks for the turn. Leo says China's population is decreasing now, but reducing, quote, overseas investment solves. E, it also says trade deals are shallow due to cultural differences, meaning leverage can't overcome structural barriers. Can you send the card that I read on their case? On second, Beckley is wrong in the case of China. Xiaolin 25. Beckley not true in China reacted by prioritizing cooperative development rather than expansion. Insecurity creates strong incentives for leaders who compromise so Beijing can address internal challenges. China is understanding development holds greater significance for legitimacy than assertive foreign policies. She emphasized humility. Third, China lost leverage before but didn't attack. Independently, they rely on Myanmar for imports, which isn't extraction. Way 25. In 2024, the Kia seized control and suspended mining operations. Chinese imports of rare earth compounds from Myanmar plummeted 89%. And China still has processing with solves to Wari 25. Beijing controls processing of almost all rare earths, which has given Xi leverage in the trade war. Cut the next card. Petty John is awful. The war simulation was a board game played by red and blue teams that didn't even conclude in a nuclear war. Do you guys need marked?
Surely.
Yeah, please send marked.
Leon, are you getting the extra card?
I already wait. It was the Frontline, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I already sent that.
Okay, it's the third doc called round 3. You guys good for cross?
We'll take a little bit of prep.
Hold on.
Wait, let him pull it up, and then we'll take a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, take it. Sorry now. "24 seconds. Y'all good for cross?"
Yeah, you can get the first question.
Okay. Can you read me the line in your uniqueness evidence that says that China is going to invade Siberia?
1 sec. I don't have it in front of me, so give me a few moments to pull it up. We'd say that it specifically says that Siberia's role in fueling economic growth makes the northern pivot increasingly likely in 2027.
Well, is pivot necessarily counter invasion? We started like the pivot to Asia, like in the 90s. Did we invade like a bunch of Asian countries?
Given that this is specific to the context of the China-Russia like cooperation, and that our evidence specifically says that right now Russia does not really think that it's in a great position to work with China, we'd say that China is definitely going to invade.
Then why
just
not
read
say invasion? Like I feel like
You
pivot
can
is
literally read the title of the article that says China will invade Siberia. Like the line is right there. I'll take a question.
like okay, but the intelligence document says nothing about invasion, which is the part you're citing. You didn't read the word invasion once in your case besides in the tagline. So I'm asking, where in the intelligence document does it imply that invasion actually happens?
We'd say that the entire card is a warrant for why there would be invasion. Obviously, the author is explaining why there's going to be invasion, given that the title of the article says that, and you have not unless you actually contest the warrants for why they're going to invade, we can say that they're going to invade. Let's talk about your arguments on fishing. You have said that states will back down so they won't escalate. If states are going to back down, then why why would states back down if they know that they have stronger forces behind them?
What do you mean?
You said that weaker states are aware of the Chinese fishing vessels affiliation. If they think they can take on China, why do they back down?
But they don't. What?
Oh, okay. You can have a question.
Wait, I'm so confused. Like our argument is that escalation doesn't happen in the status quo now because weaker states back down and that conflict escalation doesn't spill over.
No, you just said weaker states don't back down.
No, they do. Wait, that's what. Sorry, no, they do. Our argument is that weaker states, like, there's no escalation risk in the status quo.
Why? Because we've specifically said that these weaker states think that the U.S. is behind them, so they think they can challenge China. Why would they back down?
Okay, well, they challenge China, and then what? Like,
and then the U.S. comes to their aid and beats China.
It literally
just
says stronger states like the United States might hesitate before confronting, which is a line that's read in the card.
But that's not something that the weaker states are taking into account. This is the United States.
Yeah, but it's a step up the ladder. We're saying that we don't go up the ladder anymore because weaker states backed out, and the United States didn't come in. We're gonna take a little bit more prep.
150. We have another 110 of prep left.
No, we used 24 before.
Huh?
We used
Oh,
24.
yeah, that's true. Then we have 46 seconds left.
Your math. Okay.
Okay. The order is just going to be neg when Af, specifically starting on Africa. All right. Is anybody not ready? Also, how about the background noise?
Okay.
All right, that's fine. Okay. Starting on Africa. Starting in Africa, Harker is not slick. I see the spike of joint development, but I'll handle it on the Javelin evidence. Then they say that there's going to be war because of China, but again, the evidence also says that no country has strong war motivation. The turn does not matter. Go to legitimacy. First off, on the loot indicts, the barriers are actually just leverage itself, that they're using leverage to get rid of tariffs because it is an alternate way for them to still have like leverage, etc. Because of things like advanced industries. But also, this is a leverage is declining now. No, it's just industrial capacity, i.e., the processing, etc. But the resources are obviously a prerequisite of that, which is why China thinks that they can float. And all this is just another reason why there's still going to be a peaking power who will deflate by 2030. But right now, they think that they can write it out because of things like resource leverage. But also, on population increases and cultural differences, again, economic data is irrelevant. Our evidence literally says that you should not look at economic data because things like resource leverage, it's what they use. On Lin, 4 things. 1, Myanmar is an unstable state that obviously not want to do this because they do not care about the industrial capacity. They're just listening to China right now because China owns the mines. Secondly, any delay is fatal for the own white people, which means that since joint development takes a long time, obviously would trigger a scenario. 3, competitive offers from the United States means that China feels that the companies are going to get taken over, so they would still do the worst of necessity. And 4, the evidence is specific to humility right now. Look, Lin might address that, but they never address the fact that when China is actually pressured, they would no longer be able to afford humility. On Myanmar imports in the past, again, China literally did negotiations on their own, which means that they still thought they had leverage on the still in the processing. The process is literally owned by Japanese companies, which means that they, when this act happens, Japan is just going to take away the companies together. There's no reason to keep on investing in China, but also the US was just using things like counter embargoes. Lastly, on war simulations, 1, obviously that's how war simulation works, and it's a board game, but also they conceded declare evidence, which is another reason why Taiwan war happens. Extend the case. Despite tariffs, China survived through research leverage, the best indicator of Chinese stability. Otherwise, China can't win a trade war because of economic side circumstances. Luckily, the U.S. backed down as Beijing eased export controls. The instance of delicate balancing results. Heavy REM supplies that keep advanced military agencies alive. This matters more than one-dimensional or sound analysis of economic and military data. China needs to protect the choke point at all costs to international diversity. Myanmar provides half of China's heavy REM supplies, so by reducing international resource extraction, China loses leverage as well as processing power because foreign suppliers have no reason to help China. On this, for words of necessity, China is a peaking power who can only avoid peace. When supply lines are strong, governments will escalate and start wars, find resources under pressure. Taiwan will be invaded as a war of necessity, which goes nuclear according to top war games. Extinction through famine. On the wing, probability, look, the negligible all escalation links and is the only risk of war. China follows a history of 150 years of being powers who expanded to maintain resource leverage. This pattern has been natively followed on Xi's list of promises and vacuum into a corner. China only escalated their push over the edge like Germany and Japan. Otherwise, they'll stabilize and back down. The only risk of escalation is a declining China without leverage, an area of maximum danger. Being the only active analysis on the round that me, you, and China knows about. This is a meta constraint for all war impacts. We check the probability to prefer it because 1, impacts only matter if they occur, and 2, we are cosplaying policymakers who always prioritize likely scenarios. Go to their case. First of all, in Siberia, they literally can say that their evidence on like the idea of the commitment just says that it's a power play and that it never actually specifies invasion. But also, Russia is weak right now because of Ukraine, which means that they have an incentive to do alliances, which is why we see a military alliance forming right now, which checks uniqueness on space. China always has an incentive for geopolitical leverage afterwards, so they're still going to militarize the moon, etc., to put people on it. It does not matter about minerals, but also the US already has weapons in the region, which means that their scenario should have triggered. On fishing, they can see that the seas are vague, which means that China believes that their 9 national line truly is a message. Does not matter the Hague ruling, but also they can see that there are other all causes like things like going for like oil or trade, etc., which means that even if they are not fishing, they're still going to always be in the region, which should have caused the scenario. So in support of all causes were conceded, Alice never addressed all causes in her speech. You know that there's just the scenario's going to trigger regardless. Thank you.
We'll run prep starting now. Okay, we took 140, so we have 20 seconds left.
Wait, can you still hear me? Okay. Order is our case, Wang, their case. Okay, ready? Cool. Chinese fishing in the South China Sea risks disputes with the Philippines by 2026 over crucial food, affirming forces diplomatic engagement because China depends on SCS fish, which de-escalates the region as they remove their military. Otherwise, the death of even one sailor triggers a mutual defense treaty, escalating because nuclear weapons on a high alert. That causes extinction through famine. Their responses are all through ink. The first argument they make is a 9-line argument. This is incoherent. Their evidence says China thinks they own territory past the 9-line, but the Greer says The Hague, which is the International Criminal Court, literally ruled against their claims. Otherwise, they've dropped that China, which is claimed every single one of their territories is theirs post-app, which would obviously kill the topic. The second argument they make is that China would obviously stay in the region, but Alice explicitly frontlined this. We said that negotiation solves and that there won't be escalation. Alice said, quote, post-app, China shifts to cooperation in the SCS to secure access to fish because it's crucial to their food. That means they become peaceful and reduce military presence to not make the Philippines mad. That means that even if China stays in the region, they would have incentives to de-escalate, which is sufficient to solve. On the Wang. One, our argument is try or die. Extinction is null now, so the only risk of solvency is the aft. That means negative arguments are non-unique because the only chance that we can solve any extinction impact is by voting affirmative. Two is time frame. It's delineated. Tensions skyrocket in 2026, and war is uniquely fast because even one death causes quick draw in. Nuclear weapons on high alert, so escalation happens quickly, especially because both sides have incentive to attack because first mover advantages exist in a great power war. Time frame comes over probability because living longer means that we have more valid life and that intervening actors can solve their arguments in the future. Their only weighing was probability, but it doesn't matter because we have one, our case is true, so it is obviously probable. Then they say that China won't fight if they're strong, but they have conceded that China views fish as especially key because Greer says, quote, it's a matter of starvation, meaning that China does need a fight and they haven't contested uniqueness regardless. Probability is a function of link defense. The fact that we have won our link means it's true on their case. The first argument we'll go for is joint development. They have conceded that the app results in joint development. Post-app, China shifts from direct extraction to cooperating with local governments and helping them mine because it still wants the same resources, but it just needs to import instead of mining themselves. This solves all of their impacts insofar as China still gets rare earth minerals, and it was specifically on Mark's evidence in case. You can go back and read it. It cites historical examples such as North Africa and Latin America. That's places where China cannot extract anymore. They just cooperated and got the same resources anyway. But now, on leverage proper. The first argument we'll extend is the second Liu indict. They have conceded that leverage is already declining now because countries are diversifying. It says, quote, China's supply chain dominance has pushed countries to reduce their dependence, eroding Beijing's source of leverage. That means that inevitably diversification will happen, so their arguments are non-unique. Second, we'll also extend the Beckley indict. Shaolin is very good and says that Beckley is specifically wrong for the case of China because leaders view the economy as more crucial than national security. It also cites historical examples such as Deng Xiaoping backing down in the South and East China Sea, so our arguments are empirically proven, meaning that China does not invade Taiwan. The only thing that might even be responsive is a white paper argument, but this is so stupid because it's China publishing a random statement. Xi obviously knows that he would die if he invades Taiwan, so he would rather violate the white paper and make sure that he lives rather than just invading and causing a nuclear war.
We have 46 seconds. We're gonna take some of the prep now.
All right, 30.
Good for Grant?
Yeah.
Are you guys good for grants?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you can have the first question.
Oh, Roger can take it. I'm just gonna.
Okay. Sure. So, why is an international court ruling matter in the context of what China wants to do with their ships?
The topic is about international extraction. So obviously we think that we should use international definitions. One, we would like, regardless of the other debate, we would also just argue it's logical because all literature on the topic is from like an international point of view, not China's. But regardless, you've also specifically conceded in summary that anything else would justify after the act passing, China just being like, okay, we'll pass a law. We think that all territories like across the entire world are domestic, which is obviously wrong. Like we need to go by international definitions, or China just finds a loophole to every single part. Can I take a question?
Well, I'm just saying that if China will have other reasons to be in the region, why just because they want to? Why?
Okay, sure. I'll agree that China has other incentives to be in the region. The problem is those incentives don't escalate. Our evidence says that China must cooperate in the South China Sea because otherwise, if they like just put a bunch of military there, the Philippines will just refuse to give them fish post-AF, meaning that they would starve to death. So China has to cooperate and engage in diplomacy in the region, which is our link. Can I take a question?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about your Wang. Well, actually, let's talk about the white papers. What exactly are the white papers?
It's China's military paper that the like elites all signed on to.
They published it, right?
Yeah, and the elites all signed on to them.
Okay, so why? Okay, so don't you think that this is just a way to get China to be like, fear us? Like, why would they publish their internal military documents unless it's for other people to see it? Yeah, like, why is this their actual plans? How is this credible?
Okay, the point of like the point of the white papers is for all people in China to agree that they're like establishing resources as something like sanctive, right? Like maybe it might be for them to like fearmonger like other nations, but the fact is that if China itself reduces resource leverage, then they would have to go do it. But also the way that you're looking at Taiwan as like a live or die scenario, like China is not thinking about the clear evidence. They're not thinking, oh, we're gonna die.
They definitely are. Wait, if high schoolers are thinking about this, they definitely know that invading Taiwan could get one of Taiwan's biggest allies in the US to intervene. Why would they do this?
Can I please finish?
Yeah, sure.
Our analysis is that for them to go do like this invasion, whatever, they're going to look for resources. That's the point of a war of necessity. There is a logic behind it. They're not doing this baselessly. You were saying they don't want to die because you think they're like, oh, it would be stupid. Yes, maybe, but because the white papers like represent the mindset of like the Chinese government, obviously that is a decision they're going to take.
No, the white papers represent the mindset that the Chinese government wants to project to other countries because they know that everybody else is going to see them. If they were actually going to do something, they're not going to tell the whole world, especially if it's a top secret operation.
Okay, that's close.
We'll take a little bit of prep.
Okay, wait, hold up. Okay, that's right. Also, all the wings on top.
Okay. Everybody good? It's gonna be the case extension, our case weighing their case.
Hey, Strake, can you hold on 1 second? I'm at Marist right now, and there's people coming in my room.
Yeah,
Of course, yeah.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay. Frontline is going to be within the extension too. Despite tariffs, China survived because research leveraging the hold over the United States, so their economy does not collapse. The joint development does not solve. We have made arguments that they only get most of the research from Myanmar, which is an unstable nation. Independently, have said that post-affirmative, other countries make competitive offers, which in China cannot compete anymore, which conceded for backlining where that Leon drops. We also have made arguments that China's going to cave out by 2030. That right now is a period of maximum danger because they think they're rising power, but post-affirmative, but after in 2030, by that time they're going to be leveled out and the economy is going to collapse. Which is literally their leverage declining argument right now that China is declining, but it's declining slowly as the recent lash out. Whereas post-affirmative, a recent lash out because they suddenly said all resources are gone. Our impact is Chinese collapse. China's economy is susceptible to collapse due to cause internal explosion and global recession without key goods. As a nation like the United States balkanized nuclear powers and calculate, causing extinction. Actually, no, that's the worst necessity. Sorry, China is speaking power, but only avoid peace and violence are strong. Otherwise, it escalates our wars. Find resources under pressure. China was being invaded. The war necessity goes nuclear, according to top organs, causing extinction through famine in a period of maximum danger. They say Beckley's wrong, but Beckley literally takes account of their argument and says that their China was more humility, had more humility in the past, but now because it's the period of maximum danger uniquely, they're more willing to escalate. They only care about leverage. It's conceded analysis about what's actually going on now, which definitely outweighs the white paper stuff. Is new in summary, so we get new responses. Our argument is actually codified and it's signed by the lead, so she literally feels pressure. It's not what his calculus is. Independently, the Beckley evidence says that leaders often make decisions on perfect calculus, which is why he acknowledges, and it's a perceptual argument. This response to their time frame argument. It takes time for miscalculation to happen in the region, which is the link evidence, which takes forever. But you know that post-affirmative, the second it happens, she's forced to respond, which causes conflict immediately, which outweighs the time frame debate, which they've done the weighing for us already. It also outweighs time. Because you is irrelevant. It's sufficient risk to vote neg. Sufficient defense on the act means that no matter what's best to save life, which is the reason why time frame matter. Obviously, you wouldn't if we're going to die in a billion years, you wouldn't risk extinction now. Also, they've considered the way independently China only attacks post-affirmative. That right now they're willing to do cooperation. They're a country of diplomacy because they're rising power, but only when they lose leverage are they actually willing to attack. It's a conceded actor analysis, and it's a meta country, which is conceded analysis in the uncertainty. This is the only thing that China knows about, which means, and it's the only risk. And even China's motivation attack, China's diplomatic now, which solves the division scenario, which means that China would never attack in the division scenario, never blow over independently, conceded the defense. That even if international courts have ruled against China, that they think they're in the region, which they always be in the region and risk escalation. But again, it'll never spill over, which is conceded meta constraint actor analysis. Weighing is done.
Okay, we have 20 seconds left, starting now. Okay, cool. Oh shoot, this is the wrong thing. I'm gonna start on their case, and then I'm gonna do our case, and then weighing. Okay. Is anybody not ready? Okay. First, on their case, I want you to ask yourself why Xi Jinping would knowingly start a nuclear war that is guaranteed to kill everyone. This is super illogical and disproven by history. They have conceded our Xiaolin evidence, which says that the Beckley evidence is wrong in the case of China specifically because they view the economy as more important than foreign policy, which is historically proven by Deng Xiaoping and by Xi being relatively humble right now. This is very important because none of the front lines are responsive. The white papers are literally published by Xi, so obviously it's propaganda for other countries to see. Look at it very simply. Would Xi choose to kill himself, or would he explore the other options? We have told you this as an extrapolation of the Xiaolin evidence in every single speech that they have not had a sufficient response to. Our case. Extended. Chinese fisheries in the South China Sea risk dispute with the Philippines in 2026 over crucial food. Affirming forces diplomatic engagement because China depends on SCS fish, which de-escalates the region as they remove their military. Otherwise, the death of even one sailor triggers the mutual defense treaty, escalating because nuclear weapons are on high alert. That causes extinction through famine. They say it's domestic, so China will have a reason to be there anyway, but they have conceded that their evidence only says China thinks it is, but obviously if they pass the app, they would have to reduce their presence in international areas, even areas that they think are theirs, because otherwise they could just claim the entire world is theirs and then go and be everywhere. Additionally, they've conceded that even if they stay in the region, they're going to be more peaceful because they have the incentive to cooperate. They've also dropped that China views to specifically keep these. Greer says, quote, it's a matter of starvation, meaning China does need to fight in the status quo. They have not contested the uniqueness, so you know it's true.
Wait, this is explicitly an answer.
This is explicitly an answer to that China is willing to cooperate now because they don't want to cooperate over fish because it's so important to them. On the weighing. They have conceded the warrants for our time frame weighing. Tensions skyrocketed in 2026 as delineated by our evidence, and war is uniquely fast because even one death causes a quick draw in. Nuclear weapons are on high alert, so escalation happens quickly because both sides have incentives to attack because first mover advantages exist in a great power war. They say that their arguments are fast, but even if Xi is forced to respond, he still needs to build up the capabilities. They have dropped that nukes are already on high alert, so miscalculation doesn't take long, which means this warrant doesn't apply for us. Their probability is wrong because China is obviously not backing down now, and they've conceded that probability is a function of link defense, which means that either way you vote off.
Round, y'all.
Round.
And thank y'all for judging.
Yeah, thank y'all.
Yep. Great round, guys.
Yeah, good luck, y'all.
Good luck, Leon and Alex. Or Alice and Leon. I'm sorry.